let's open up the map. I am at the very bottom of Cascade, and Cascade has three roads. They're kind of hard to see here on the map, but if you zoom in, you will come to realize that all of these roads, well, this is where two of these roads intersect. They are shaped kind of like a sideways pie. This is another intersection between the roads. And yeah, so this is one road that goes just straight along the east edge of the map, and then it like turns around and goes down like kind of like an umbrella hook. So if I'm pointing at the old Pioneers Cemetery near a checkpoint, we've got a full length of a line, and here's the rest of it, sort of. So yeah, this is called the Cascade Highway, and we can see that on this crossroad sign. This is the Cascade Highway. Like I said, this is parallel to the sign, so this is the name of this exact road. The other road that intersects with is Old Belknap Road. So it intersects with both roads. This one just goes vertically up. The other two, you can imagine they are horizontal, and yeah, one at the bottom and then one at the top side of the map. This one is called Old Belknap Road. The other one is called Old Wagon Road, as we will see in a second. And yeah, this road does have a blown up bridge. I'll get to that in just 1 second. So let's just ride along it. See, this is one of those detours. We reached a roadblock, and so we just go around it. And now we're on the other side of that roadblock. We are a little bit far. I'm pretty sure there's another detour on like the other side of it. Yeah, you can see, here it is. This right here is a detour. It's a dirt trail that goes around a roadblock. Yeah, it starts a little early, which is why I missed it. Okay, so this is where we came back from the detour. So, make note of a few landmarks you may find along the way, like this train bridge. That's gonna come in handy soon. And here is where it intersects with the other road. There is a little bit of danger here. There's a few freaks out and about. This is Caldera Hydro Project, which Caldera apparently has something to do with craters and lava rock, which is where the dam gets its name from. So, like we said, Cascade Highway, which is what we were on, and this is Old Wagon Road. This is called Old Wagon Road. This is the other horizontal road that's on the top side of the map. And this is one of those signs with only a single name on it. So yeah, and this is a hydro dam. So let me show you what it's like. So this road, like I said, it's sort of horizontal. It leads all the way till the separation point between Cascade and Belknap. So Cascade and Belknap are separated by this ridge. I'm gonna call it Separation Ridge based on a lot of clues that I have gotten throughout the game. So yeah, over here is a blown up bridge, and you can see there's a trail right here, but this trail leads to the hydro dam. Now, there aren't any bridges between these two runs. This is technically a run because it is on the sides of a river. This river is called Horse Creek, and then this lake right here is Horse Lake. You may think that this lake is actually Horse Lake because of the Horse Lake Nero checkpoint, but this is actually not Horse Lake. If you notice, there is a horde that you unlock later in the game called Horse Lake Horde, and their drinking ground is all the way over here. This is where their cave is. So yeah, this is the Caldera Hydro Dam. And so this blown up bridge, in order to cross it, you have to actually take the path that you take during prologue, which is all the way back here. So you have to take, I believe, this is the dirt trail, and then it basically crosses the bridge, and now you're on this side, and then you're just traveling along the trails here, and then you end up crossing this bridge. So let's go ahead and do that. So this is that detour we took earlier, and if I go down here, this is a run along Horse Creek, and if we follow the path, like the rippers say, we're eventually gonna get to a bridge that connects this run to another run. And now we're on the other side of Horse Creek. And now, as soon as we hit the road, this is the other side of that blown up bridge. So now we can see the north side of the Cascade Highway. And this leads all the way to where we found Alvarez, the old pioneer cemetery, and then there's the Nero checkpoint up here. So if I continue all the way, we've got ourselves a Nero checkpoint all the way at the end. And there's actually, right by the Nero checkpoint, another road that leads down to a second gate for the old pioneer cemetery. So this is the path that Leon takes after he hides the stash. He probably tried to get out through the main gate, noticed Deacon and Boozer, and then just turned around, came this way, went up, and then he escaped down. Okay, so now if I open the map, now that we know that there is a road right here that goes all the way across, and then another road all the way down here that also goes all the way across, like we said, Old Belknap Road, Old Wagon Road, Cascade Highway. Okay, we're going to want to start organizing landmarks around them. So, most notably, we've got O'Leary Mountain Safe House, which is a mountain at the very, very center of the map. This one is not that hard to realize. Now, most of the regions in the game have both a lookout tower, a fire watch tower, and a radio tower. In the case of Cascade, we've got the O'Leary Mountain fire watch tower, and we also have, to the west of it, Cascade Radio Tower ambush camp. This is the camp that Copeland asks us to clear right at the very end of prologue. So if you have finished prologue, you will see right here there is a mission called No Starving Patriots. That is the Cascade Radio Tower. And so, another very notable landmark is Copeland's camp, and it is at the very south of the map. Now, if you actually follow, so this is, like I said, this is Horse Lake. Now, on this side, you see these water, like creeks. These are called the Metolius Springs. There is a brown sign right somewhere over here that says Metolius Springs. This is called Metolius Springs, and up here you see this historical marker. This is called Rainbow Falls. So, if you follow the water, Rainbow Falls, which is north of Wagon Road, pours into the Metolius Springs, which pour into the Horse Lake, which are blocked by the Caldera Hydro Dam. Then Horse Creek, creek means river, by the way. I did not know that before researching for this video. So, Horse Creek goes all the way down, and we can see over here, Horse Creek Ambush Camp. So, it goes all the way down, and it keeps going, and then over here we have Proxy Falls, which also pours into Horse Creek. And if I follow the path for the river, we eventually end up taking a slight turn. It kind of like goes down and then turns, makes a U-turn and then goes back up. And over here, we've got a bridge. This is the bridge where we start to investigate Leon. And if I follow the water right here, it eventually ends up being all the way at Peaceful Lake. So yeah, that is Peaceful Lake. That is quite an interesting path for the water. And then over here, north of Old Belknap Road, we've got Big Bear Lake, and we also have Little Bear Lake, which is right here somewhere. It's easier to see actually on the map, so yeah. Then there's another river up here. I don't know what the name of this river is. I have not found a single clue that states what it's called. Maybe it's called Separation River because, like I said, there is a mission that takes place just north of here. It's called here about a Ripper Camp, and this area is referred to as Separation Meadow, hence why I gave this ridge the name Separation Ridge. Okay? And so I have not figured out a name for this lake just yet. We've got, of course, Horse Lake Nero checkpoint, but Horse Lake, like I said, is here. So yeah. And then there's also another river here and a waterfall, also completely unnamed. As you can see, there are no historical markers around, but important landmarks to know about. So east of O'Leary Mountain, you've got the logging camp. I think it's called the High Desert Logging Camp. We'll check the road sign in just a sec. And then on the east side is Cascade Radio Tower Ambush Camp. And then up north here is Mount Jefferson. That is the very beautiful white mountain you see at the very top of the map. And of course, Jefferson Rail Tunnel Ambush Camp. Which, speaking of Jefferson Rail Tunnel, one cool thing I like about the Cascade region is the train track, which from later on in the game we learn the name of this train track is called the Cascade Lakes Railway. So it starts at the east side of the map and ends at the north side of the map, but the interesting part is that at the north end you have an ambush camp, and at the very south end you have another ambush camp, and not just that, you have 3 hordes, all 50 made up of 50 freakers each, available to you at the very beginning of the game. The first one is at the beginning of the rail, the second one is in the middle of the rail, and then the last one is at the top of the rail. So you've got Proxy Falls Horde, which is located right here at these Proxy Falls, and then you have the Death Train Horde, which is located right here, and then you have the White King Mine Horde, which feeds along here, but the White King Mine is actually over here. So what have we learned so far? We've got at the north end we have Pioneer Cemetery, Rainbow Falls, Horse Creek, Jefferson Rail Tunnel Ambush Camp, and Mount Jefferson. Then we have the White King Mine, and then along Wagon Road, or Old Wagon Road, we have Horse Lake Nero Checkpoint and the Death Train Horde, and then we have the Hydro Dam at the other end. We learned that there's a river that flows along this side of the map called Horse Creek. We also have the Cascade Highway that runs beside it. And of course, we have the Pioneer Cemetery, and let's not forget the Grotto Caves, which are located right here, right beside the Pioneer Cemetery. So did I miss anything? We've got the logging camp, O'Leary Mountain, the Cascade Radio Tower Ambush Camp, and Separation Meadow. Then we have Little Bear Lake, Nero Checkpoint, and Little Bear Lake itself. Big Bear Lake. Over here, there's a small lookout area that's pretty lovely. I can show it to you in a sec. And then we have the trail that leads up to O'Leary Mountain. Yeah. And then we've got Peaceful Lake down here, and there's a research site, Nero research site somewhere down here. I think it's here. This is it, I think. Yeah. So one more piece of information, tiny piece of information, is Buck Meadow Bridge. So this area here is called Buck Meadow, and I'm not sure which exactly is the bridge itself. It could be this one, because we learned this from the prologue mission, track Leon along Buck Meadow Bridge. That's what the active mission log says. So it may also be the bridge that we take right before reaching him. So let me show you all each one of these locations. Just quickly, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Buck Meadow area. Now, this is a familiar sight, although the bike is missing mirrors. So, this is where Deacon and Boozer went to search for Leon. And it may seem like as if we are heading north, and I'm pretty sure I can't use this anymore. Oh, I can. Good, they fixed it. Although I don't think you can use it backwards, can you? No, you can't. Okay. So, now, north is now this way, and now we're headed a little bit eastward. And then, all of a sudden, because it's a little confusing, we keep heading eastward, and then we get to this part, and then now we're heading southward from here. Okay? So now, when you hear me say Buck Meadow Bridge, it is this bridge right here. And, well, now we're actually not headed southwards, we're still heading east. But as soon as we get to the part where we killed Leon, now we're pointed southward. Get it? It can be a little confusing, but here's Leon's corpse, and if we keep heading from the Cascade Highway, you can see where it's broken. We actually descend down and we go around this part. So let me look at the map. We are here, we are pointed southwards. So this is the broken bridge. This is the Proxy Falls Horde's feeding ground up here. Yeah, so this is the trail that we take downwards. It wraps around, and then the Proxy Falls Horde basically resides here. And then here is the Marauder camp, where a certain mission takes place. And you may have seen it in an E3 trailer. Before we head down to where Leon is killed, this is Buck Meadow Bridge here. There's a little bit of a gap that goes into a sort of feeding ground for a horde, and this is where the waterfall basically is. So there's a gate that can get blown up right outside of this camp. This area is very, very confusing, and I wanted to show you it in detail, and here's what I'm talking about. So here is the watering ground for the Proxy Falls Horde. And if I go through here, this was the place where that horde would reside. There's a lot of trash here. And that's the gate. And there is the bridge. There's the Proxy Falls Horde's cave. And then the Marauder camp is all the way out here. And you can actually blow up this gate. And you can also go through this fence right here. So yeah, this is technically Horse Creek, so Proxy Falls, like I said, pours into Horse Creek, and then Horse Creek just keeps flowing southward. And then it goes all the way down here, right to where the Proxy Falls Horde drinks. All the way down here. So, we've already showed you the Nero checkpoint, and let me show you the Pioneer Cemetery, because there are a few interesting things to take note of. So this is the North Gate, and then here in the middle between both gates we've got the Weeping Angel statue, and then we have, of course, up here the feeding ground for a horde. So yeah, this is where Grotto Caves Horde feeds. And we also have an infestation nest here at this barn. So yeah, and there's one more point of interest. So here is the southern gate. And here is the only grave with a name. This is a member of the MC. So, the motorcycle club that Deacon and Boozer are a part of is called the Mongrels. The symbol for it, the logo for it, is a uh, dead dog chewing through a chain, or a hound of hell chewing through a chain. And yeah, this is Harlan Nelson, devoted husband, father, friend, brother, never defeated even in death. So where the game mentions this is in Deacon's journal. So if I go up to storylines, let's check progress. And I believe it's in, okay, so it's in the Infestation Exterminator storylines. If you go to Pioneer Cemetery Infestation. I came out here to the Pioneer Cemetery just once back in the day. Harlan Nelson, one of the MC old-timers, died of lung cancer a few months after I patched in. Mongrels from all over the Pacific Northwest rode in for the funeral. Biker funerals are something else. 100 bikes, 1,000 cans of beer, most of it being poured into his open grave. In what world? In that world, no bigger sign of respect. And we have one more point of interest right outside the south gate. So, this is where Alvarez died, and this is a statue of Peter Skeen Ogden, the first explorer of Oregon, or as Deacon told Sarah, the first white explorer. So, yeah, if you hear that name, you know who that is. Now, if I take this trail,
We're just taking out freaks, yeah? Go at it, fellas.
this leads into the Grotto Caves, or the High Desert Grotto, whatever the hell you want to call it. As you can see, we have an entrance here. And yeah, the way in, so this does not lead anywhere, this is just a cavern-ish thing. Here, you actually have tunnels, if I can see. You just have one tunnel, and it's not that hard to navigate. So, if I follow it, we have a little bit of a gap here on the right, doesn't lead anywhere, and then over here we have two paths. This path here on the bottom leads to a horde hibernating location, and then up here we reach a Nero injector, which actually overlooks the other part of the cave. So yeah, that other tunnel would have led all the way here, and then over here we don't have anything in this gap, but yeah, at the end we have a Nero injector and a micro recorder. So yeah, if I hop down here, I'm now at the other tunnel. So now if I head out, I just have to go this way, and then I'm back out. Another thing to point out is that there is also a side entrance to the grotto caves. This just overlooks where that first cavern is, and it looks like I got stuck, so if you guys did, just roll and Deacon will be free. So we've got a path here, you can overlook this cavern-ish area, and then the tunnel entrance, we can crawl under here. And then we jump down, and we can look into the tunnel entrance. I'll show you this from the bottom.
Ah!
So here we are at the bottom tunnel. If I turn on my flashlight, this is where we were at just a second ago. Okay, so now this is where I am, and I'm gonna take a trail that leads to Rainbow Falls, and I'm gonna show another location where a specific mission takes place. And then I'm gonna follow the exact trail that leads to Jefferson Rail Tunnel Ambush Camp. Obviously, there's nothing behind it, so the trail is on the front side of the mountain, and then it goes around this water tower, and you get eventually to the White King Mine area. This is one common dirt trail that you might use throughout the game. So this is another place for an infestation nest for the old Pioneer Cemetery. And I believe Rainbow Falls is right here. So if I hop off, there it is. Here's the historical marker for it.
That's interesting.
And now you can see there's this footbridge. And now this right here is an area where you could potentially get confused. This leads down to the Metolius Springs. And then this right here continues up. But there is a path upwards, so this path at the bottom leads to the Jefferson, so this is the trail that's along the bottom side of Mount Jefferson, okay? And then up here, there is an anarchist mission that takes place all the way up here. And this is the road for it. And these may split off, but they meet at the north side, so it's not that confusing. So here it is. Yeah, there's a jump. But this is the bottom side, and then the top road would have been the sniper area. And there is just a few useless trails up here. But they basically just loop around. It's just a hill with a trail at the top and bottom. As you can see, that's where we were. And then, yeah, this is where we were. This area up here is for where the snipers would stand during the mission. And as you can see, our trails meet again where I said they split off. So now let's go back. And we can just follow the trail that we were on earlier. as you can see, this is Old Wagon Road, but the trail kind of continues up here. This is Horse Lake Horde's cave. And then if I continue here, there's the water tower. And then we go around this lake basically. Because the trail splits off again over here. This path up here leads to Jefferson Rail Tunnel Ambush Camp, and then this path down here will lead you to the White King Mine area. So this is where they feed. That right there is the Jefferson Rail Tunnel, and that, you can barely see it, but it's Mount Jefferson. And then we have a couple of bridges over here, and you can see if I follow this bridge, it leads all the way to the White King Mine. Pretty easy, really. So if we're using the debug menu mod under points of interest in Cascade, the White King Mine is called Lady Francis Mine. There is no other mention of this anywhere else in the game, unless I missed one. If I did, comment it below, and I will reply to your comment. So now let's look at the middle part of the map that's in between Old Wagon Road and Old Belknap Road. And so if I take this trail, this is a trail that is right beside the separation ridge. And here we are, this is the tunnel that separates Cascade and Belknap. So yeah, and of course, if you ride along this road, you will come across the Horse Lake Nero checkpoint. And what does this sign say? That does say Horse Lake Recreation Area. So I'm guessing both lakes are called Horse Lake, which I find to be a little bit odd, because the Horse Lake Horde themselves don't touch Horse Lake, right? Anyways, I may be wrong about a few of these names, but this is what I learned. So, if I take the trail that's right here, this takes us to Separation Meadow, and it leads to the Cascade Radio Tower Ambush Camp. Let's just imagine that there are 3 vertical lines in between Old Wagon Road and Old Belknap Road, and this is the one on the west side. You just keep on following it. And then down here is the Ripper Camp. And of course, up here is the Cascade Radio Tower Ambush Camp. And yeah, this splits off, but they both lead to the same area. And so this trail would lead me down to Little Bear Lake, but I wanted to show the middle part of the map, and this is O'Leary Mountain. There's a river between these two, so if I head up here, you can see these 2 poles. So this down here is a common path. This leads to the O'Leary Mountain Horde area. But if you go here and then turn left, this is a very common trail that you're gonna use. we eventually reach all the way up to O'Leary Mountain. Let's hope we have enough momentum. Inertia. I think the correct term is inertia. Okay, so now that I've made it up to O'Leary Mountain, here's an easy path you can take. So from the gate, we go all the way down. So like I said, this is one of those dirt roads, the main dirt roads, with the grass median. It's wide enough for a car, I don't count it as a trail. And over here is the logging camp. And it leads all the way down to Old Belknap Road. And as you can see by this sign, this road does not have a name. So I have, based on the knowledge that I have gathered from the articles, I have called it O'Leary Firewatch Drive. And so if I take this trail right here, this is that cool lookout area that I was mentioning. I believe it's up here actually. Yeah, as you can see, I don't know every single trail 100%, but I know them just enough to be able to navigate. Knowing where each landmark is very, very important. So yeah, this is that lookout. It's got some loot, but let's turn around and leave. And so here we are at the logging camp. We've got one circular road. If I go down here, this is the Cascade Highway. And then we have this sign that says High Desert Logging. So I'm gonna give this particular segment of road the name Cascade Logging Drive. And then we have one straight road that goes through a circle. We can actually give both of these roads the name High Desert Logging Bay. So a bay is a circular road. And these are all of the main dirt roads in Cascade. None of them have names, but we have given them our own names. Time to move on to the southern part of the Cascade map. And I'll start with an easy path that you're gonna keep on using to get to Peaceful Lake. So, if we get on Old Belknap Road, you're gonna see a brown sign right before a fallen tree. And this brown sign, if I go up here, this is a run along the creek, Horse Creek, and it eventually leads to Copeland's camp.
Hey, someone's here. Oh, hey, open up. I've seen him before.
And if I take the south gate, I can get to the Nero checkpoint if I follow this path right here, and then just cross right here. And here we are, the Nero checkpoint. Which, the other side of the Nero checkpoint is just a trail that's on top of a hill that goes around the Cascade Highway. There are a couple of spots here in the south, to the south of Old Belknap Road that I forgot to mention. Remember when we chase Reynolds when Deacon finds out that his bike was stolen by Copeland? So, if we actually move here, in this area there is a marauder camp that we pass through. And it is right over here. Do you see it? There's actually a mission that takes place here, where we save somebody who's taken hostage at the shack. And so basically, we chase Reynolds through this camp, and then we head down here, which leads us straight to the south gate of Copeland's camp. Here it is. So here's another common path you can take from Copeland's camp. If you notice, here is where the run kind of, this is kind of like a bridge, but it's not a bridge. I don't know what you'd call that, but the two runs connect. So if I ignore the run and actually come down here, so if I imagine that this is sort of rocky mountain or a ridge that separates the trails here from Old Belknap Road, this trail right here goes all the way to the Cascade Highway, but this one right here goes up to Little Bear Lake Nero checkpoint. Now this does go to a cabin with a historical marker, but we want the path that's up here. Because it leads to Little Bear Lake Nero checkpoint. And if I look all the way over here, this down here is Little Bear Lake. And of course we got its name from the Nero checkpoint as well as the Horde. So a couple more things to show. If I head over here, now this side of the trail just leads down to Little Bear Lake, but this up here, doesn't matter if you take left or right, they both lead to the same area. But we end up at the run that leads all the way up to the Cascade Radio Tower ambush camp. But if I head down here, this is Big Bear Lake. And here is the sign for it, Big Bear Lake Recreation Area. This is the roadblock from very early on. The first fist fight that we have, that's the Humvee that we push into the water. So, Big Bear Lake, keep it in mind that this lake is at the very bottom of O'Leary Mountain on the south side. So yeah. Now I'm gonna show a couple more trails that we can take. So our first trail is from Big Bear Lake, goes all the way up to O'Leary Mountain. And here we are. There is one last trail that I forgot to mention around O'Leary Mountain. So if we take this dirt trail here on the right, and then we go to the left instead of going to the right, so this trail on the right leads down to Big Bear Lake, and then this trail here on the left will be kind of familiar. Because if I go here on the right, we are going to end up right at the Marauder camp from Prologue, Drifters on the Mountain. And this is a very familiar scene. And my aim is off. But yeah, Drifters on the Mountain. And if I follow this trail all the way to the end, where we're gonna end up is right at the bottom here. This is the trail that I showed at the north end of Big Bear Lake. North? No. At the east end of Big Bear Lake, sorry. And this is one of the brown signs that I said will never load text on it. It's supposed to say Big Bear Lake Recreation Area, just like the sign that's on the other side of the lake. So there is one more road that I forgot to talk about, and it is the road leading to the Smoke on the Mountain Marauder Camp, which is a mission that you unlock a little bit after Prologue. If you finish No Starving Patriots, you're gonna get this mission. And from O'Leary Mountain, here's how we get to it. So we ignore the first trail on the right side, as well as ignoring the second trail, because the second trail, all it does is lead to this trail right here. It intersects with it, basically. As you can see, this goes down. And so, we take the trail that's right afterwards. And we go all the way down here. And as you can see, this also intersects with the trail that leads up to the O'Leary Mountain Horde Cave. And now, it's over there. So, that leads to the Death Train area. And then up here, we should end up right at the O'Leary Mountain Horde's Horde Cave. So now you know where we're at. And another trail that is very common for us to take leads us all the way down to the Death Train Horde. So if I go down here, if I take this path on the right, and then I take another right, we go in between these two poles, and then if I head straight forward, I'm gonna end up at the O'Leary Mountain Horde Cave, and then on the left, we go down, and then we keep following the path down. And we're gonna end up at the Death Train Horde's feeding ground. Which leads me nicely to the Belknap area. We've got two more points of interest to talk about in Cascade, which are of course the tunnels that go into Belknap area. So these two tunnels are the only two ways of going from Cascade to Belknap. This one down here, as we mentioned earlier in the video, is called Belknap Tunnel. This one up here is called Marion Forks Tunnel, like we see with this checkpoint, Marion Forks Tunnel Nero checkpoint.